live, hopefully. So good morning, everybody. I'm Andrew Jenkins, and this is a short countdown timer to help the various live feeds catch up and settle down, folks. And we can't wait for today's Growthy show. And I dedicate this 105th show to my mum, who sadly passed away on Friday morning. Rest easy, mum. So that's a quick dedication to my mum. And today we're going to be hanging out with Head of Ideas on Stage, Andrea Pacini. Yeah, we can't wait. And our theme is the secrets to becoming a confident presenter. Oh, I think that deserves an oh, if I can find it. There we go. Oh, there it is. Oh. So give us a quick wave, Andre.
Hey, Andrew. Good to see you. Hey, Sarah.
Good to see you. Yeah, and Sarah, Mrs. Moderator, is in the room. Morning. Okay, as I said, 105th show. So Sarah, Andre, me, Marketing CX, Ghost are this week's sponsors, and that's today's team, folks. Wow. So, yep, just had a call. Sarah, your comments come through. So please let us know if our comments are coming through. We're just checking the feed that we're all good. We're all good. Yep. And we got people live. Brilliant. So please join in. Fantastic. Okay, here we go. So, yeah, 105th show, folks. And, yeah, we can't wait. So plenty of people are joining in. Brilliant. And Jonas, brilliant. Boom, there we go. Oi, oi, people, and hi, gang. It's Leaders Live showtime, folks. And it's just after 8:45 a.m. here in the UK. And we are live with Leaders Live. Spreading the love, folks, spreading the love. Yabba dabba do. And I hope you enjoyed that groovy opener intro, gang. And this week we're delighted that we're being powered by Ghost, this week's sponsor. So look out for who's sponsoring us each week. Oh, and please let us know if our audio is coming through okay as well. I think it is, because we're already seeing comments, which is always a good sign. We know we're live. So if you're new to Leaders Live, a warm welcome to you. And Leaders Live is a dynamic weekly talk show that generates business through networking, community, and extraordinary conversations that inspire. And as I mentioned in the countdown, I'm Andrew Jenkins, and I host this interactive weekly Leaders Live show that's built an awesome community of like-minded leaders, just like you guys on this morning. And so please don't be shy. We'd love you to introduce yourself, join in, interact with the comments. It's an interactive show, so that's how we roll. And we've got 3 simple rules, folks: a safe community, mutual respect, and please no selling in the room. And our motto is I to the power of we. And morning to some regulars and some newbies as well. So fantastic. Or some people that are just revisiting. And okay, so smash those likes too, folks, and those thumbs up. Really appreciate that. Love the bell. And now this talk show enables you to listen to great content, but there's so much more value when you subscribe to our email list, because you get leadership skills, you get teaching, you get value to equip you to lead well, and you get freebies, and you get updates. What's not to like, folks? What's not to like? And to make it real simple, we now have a single U-tree I think that's called Linktree, sorry, URL. So that's in the chat very shortly. And so if you put it all together, what have you got? Bibbidi, bobbidi, poo. There you go. And let's bring in this week's Leaders Live guest, Head of Ideas on Stage, Andrea Pacini. How you doing, Andre?
I'm good. Thank you very much, Andrew. Thanks for having me. And thanks to, I don't know whether we have Kieran O'Donnell in the audience today, but thanks to Kieran as well for making the introduction.
Well, hopefully Kieran will be online shortly. I haven't seen him in the comments yet, but that doesn't mean he's not there. So, we'll come to introductions in a moment. There's quite a few people online, which is great. Please make yourself known so that we can interact with you. So our theme today, Andre, is the secrets to becoming a confident presenter. Give us a little bit of a kind of direction of travel, Andre. Where are we heading today?
Yeah, sure. We're going to talk about all things presentation skills, public speaking. So it's a conversation that will be useful mainly for business owners, business leaders who either want to become more confident presenters themselves, or for leaders who have a team maybe and they want to develop a team of confident communicators, confident presenters. So we're going to talk about things, insights, tips, techniques for us to be able to take our presentation skills to a higher level. And of course, we can also talk about why that's important.
Brilliant. Lovely summary. I love the way you've just done that. Absolutely great. Perfect. Now, Andre, you have got an audience question for us to get the interaction going in the audience. What's your question for the audience today?
My question is, I'm curious, what's the most memorable or impactful presentation that you've seen in the past? And also, if you can think of one in particular, what made it so remarkable?
What made it so remarkable? So, what's the most memorable impact presentation you've witnessed or seen, and what made it so remarkable, folks? There we go. And that'll follow up in the feed shortly. So, there's a delay in the feed, so we'll pick up the interactions in the chat and the comments shortly. But there's your cue to get involved in the show. Let me introduce quickly, while we're waiting for the comments to catch up, Mrs. Moderator, Sarah Jenkins. How you doing, Sarah?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing well. It's nice to see there's some names in the chat that I'm not recognising. So, good morning to Russell Anderson Williams.
No.
Nice to hear we're loud and clear. Thomas
Brent.
King. Morning, Ildy. Julie Hudson.
Morning, Julie.
Morning,
Morning,
Dave. Morning,
Thomas.
Dave.
Thomas is
Ria.
a returning visitor. We haven't seen you for a while, Thomas, so that's great to see you. And good morning again, Ildy. Thanks for the coffees the other day. I owe you a coaching session, so there you go. And Julie Hudson, as you said. And yeah, lots of people online. Brilliant.
There we go. Still no sign of Kieran. So, come on, Kieran, if you're hiding, let us know.
Okay, brilliant. Fantastic. Okay. Anything you want to pick up at the moment, Sarah?
Yeah, we've got lots of people answering the question. So Russell says, Ken Robinson TED Talk about education versus creativity.
Okay.
Gil Tinney, Dr. Bruce Lipton spoke for a day and every minute was a gem.
Oh, nice one, Jill. Lovely.
Oh, Ildy's going for the best one. Watching Andrew deliver NLP training.
Yeah, LD, yeah.
Oh, we like that. That
Brilliant,
makes
thank
him feel good.
Feel the love, feel the love.
Maria Jeffers, TED Talks I often watch impress me. Storytelling style is very effective. Russell says it was so impactful because it had humour, story, no slides, and a great presenter with confidence.
There you go, no slides. Brilliant.
And good morning, Cecile.
Good morning,
there
Cecile.
We go.
Yeah,
right,
there we go.
Back to you then.
Back to you then. So, what say you, Andre, to those pointers in the feed?
Yeah, Russell's suggestion, Ken Robinson, the title of that talk is Do Schools Kill Creativity? I agree with Russell. Fantastic talk.
Yeah.
And unless things have changed recently, it was, maybe still is, the most viewed TED Talk ever in the history of TED Talk.
Oh,
so
wow.
there's a reason for
TED
that. Yeah.
Talks. Yeah. And the reason
and
for
also,
that. Yeah.
Sorry, and also, Andrew, for your so ELD was talking about your presentations, and before we went live, so he mentions a voice, the way you use your voice, posing, changing the tone. We were talking about the importance
we were indeed
voice before going live. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, thanks for that, LD. Yeah, that's made my day, actually. It's lovely when you get a shout out on your own show. And yeah, good morning, Ricky. Good morning, Paul. And good morning, Julie. And Sophia, a newbie here. Love TED Talk, she says. There's a comment there. Good morning, Sophia. You're very welcome. So, let's get going. And before we get going, let's just give you a round of applause. Oh, we love this confetti bomb. Brilliant. There we go. So, right, here's our first question for you. Let's kick us off with this. So, how crucial are presenting skills really in business today, Andre? Take it away for us. I mean, it's an obvious question, it seems, but there could be a subtle answer to that. So, off you go.
Of course, I'm biased, but I do think that they are crucial. I'll give you an example. I don't know, maybe, Andrew, you might have heard this example in the past, or maybe not. It may be new to somebody in the audience. Warren Buffett, a few years ago, gave a lecture at, I think it was Columbia University in the US. And he said to the students, look, right now, I'm ready to invest $100,000 on each of you for 10% of your future earnings. And the students laughed, and he said, look, I'm serious. Actually, you can increase your value by 50%. So I'm going to invest $150,000 on each of you if you learn public speaking. And he wanted to make a point. And his point was that the single greatest skill to achieve your objectives, whatever those are, is your ability to pitch, present, and communicate your ideas. If you want to grow your business, increase your influence and reputation, boost your career, whatever your context is, the single greatest skill for you to do that is your ability to pitch, present, communicate your ideas. Because if you think about it, Andrew, you can have the greatest idea in the world. And I say idea, it could be a product, a service, a project, an initiative, it could be just an idea. But if you can't communicate it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, isn't that true? It's the greatest single skill, according to Warren Buffett. I think there's a lot in that, actually. And you would obviously agree with that, Andre.
I do agree with that 100%. As I said, I am biased. That's what we do with our clients. But if you think about, especially for business leaders, now what happens is what we see all the time with our clients, up to a certain point in your professional journey, it could be your professional journey, your entrepreneurial journey, depending on what your context is, then what you do and your technical skills play a major role. But then up to that point onwards, what really makes a difference is no longer what you can do, your technical skills. Of course, these remain important, but most people take them for granted. What makes a big difference is whether or not you can talk about what you do, whether or not you can communicate your ideas in an effective way. That's what really makes a difference.
Yeah. So over and above your technical skills and your capability, so that, if I'm reading you right, Andre, that's just a given, and that's the baseline, right? That's where you're starting from. But the difference that makes the difference is how you can communicate that, how you can present your ideas, pitch your ideas, be persuasive, influence other people, engage other people, and get people involved in what you're doing. And that's a big influence skill, by the sounds of it, Andre.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And that's what we mean, at least that's what I mean by public speaking. When we talk about public speaking, you asked me to give you a bit of a direction of travel, and I mentioned the word public speaking. Now, it doesn't have to be, public speaking doesn't have to be a talk at a big conference. It doesn't have to be where many people in the audience were talking about TED Talks. It doesn't have to be a TED Talk. It could be. I mean, that's a great opportunity if somebody has it. But if you are communicating in a meeting with your team, with your clients, with your potential clients, with your partners, that's public speaking. And again, going back to your question, Andrew, if meeting participants remember nothing, then the return on the investment is minimal. If your sales pitch fails to convince customers to buy from you, your revenues will suffer. If your leadership talk or presentation fails to inspire your team or your partners to follow you, then they won't be motivated to follow you and deliver on your strategy. If your investor pitch fails to convince investors that they should support your startup or your idea, if that's what you need to kick it off, then it's going to be tough. So that's why, again, presentation skills, public speaking in general is so important.
Brilliant. I love the way you summarize that. So, if you fail to, if you can't inspire, then, your business will fail. If you can't convince, then your revenue will suffer. There's really, fundamental principles here. And yet it doesn't have to be a big speech thing. It doesn't have to be a TED Talk. This is just talking to maybe just a few people in a room, but presenting an idea, pitching an idea, Andre. It's not just big stuff you're talking about here, public speaking. It's actually being able to stand up and deliver something of importance without a massive amount of, as someone said in the audience, I think it might have been Russell, talking about, death by PowerPoint, not too many PowerPoint slides either. What say you to that, Andre?
Russell said that the reason why he liked Ken Robinson's talk, one of the reasons, was that he didn't use slides. Now,
there it is.
A very common problem I see, I agree with Russell, a very common problem I see in business is that every time we need to give or we want to give a presentation, we immediately associate it with, okay, let's just put together some slides on PowerPoint or any other presentation tool. Now, I need to say this because many people do. If you think that a presentation is just about PowerPoint, you've missed the point.
I like that. Yeah.
If you think that a presentation is just about putting together some slides, you've missed the point. And now, slides, PowerPoint, any kind of visual support that we use can be useful for us to be able to amplify a message, as long as, first of all, we understand that your message is the most important thing. You are the presentation, not your slides. So your message, your delivery.
Ooh.
And then also, if you do use a tool like PowerPoint, then Russell is right. We have to avoid the typical death by PowerPoint. People can't read and listen at the same time.
Yeah.
So you want to have something on the screen that very simply supports, reinforces, and amplifies what you're saying. You don't have to use it as something that replicates what you're saying, because people can't read and listen at the same time.
Yeah, and don't use it as a crutch to remember your words. So yeah, I like that. So use your slides to amplify and support what you're saying at the right time, so that it has impact, not just a set of words that replicate what you've just said. Oh, fantastic! I like that. Let's just give you a quick break for a moment. There's so much going on in the feed. Let's just catch up with the feed, Sarah.
Oh, where to start?
Where to start? I know. Yeah.
Just a little bit about what people found interesting in presentations. So delivery seems to be a common theme.
Delivery.
And a good point that gets people thinking.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Let's have a look. So Matthias said his favourite one was a presentation from a Norwegian professor. I apologise for my pronunciation here. Frank Erbrot, sharing his experiences from navigating through the educational system.
Brilliant.
He thinks that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Julie says a barrier when talking about yourself is talking about yourself. She tends to relate what she does to the client's circumstances, so it's about them, not her. And over time, people get to know you and your values separately.
Oh.
Communication is everything. Absolutely, Matthias.
Yeah.
Yeah, Russell, be careful what we say too much about the PowerPoints, because Russell does make a living by designing presentations for people. We don't want to do him out of a job here completely.
Well, I imagine your presentations are brilliant because of that reason. So there
Exactly.
we go. Yeah.
Paul Winfield, talking about communication, says as a paramedic, effective communication is essential. We need buy-in from the patient. So authentic presentation is everything.
Yeah.
I think that's so true, isn't it? When you listen to somebody, if they're not authentic, you can see through that. And I don't know about everybody else, but I tend to switch off at that point.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Here we go. Matthias, in Norway, we have an expression: the simplest is often the best.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Down to communication. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Ant Jones, totally agree. Without good communication, nothing happens. If you can't explain it clearly, the message is lost. Give it feeling.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I like that. You have to give it feeling. Yes, I like that.
Absolutely. Marie Jeffers, genuine passion is obvious. It makes a great presentation. So here we go. Great question from Rebecca Jenkins. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning,
What's your
Rebecca.
view, Andre, on walking around when giving a talk? Is it distracting or good?
Oh, good point. Right. Andre, over to you.
Yeah, and good to see Rebecca. I think we're going to have a conversation for her podcast in a few weeks.
Yes.
And also, so I'm going to answer the question, but then let me just also mention so many points here coming from the chat. Delivery, simple is best. A barrier to communication is when you talk about yourself, and also authenticity. We can talk about, I could spend hours talking about all of these things. So these are great. Now, going back to Rebecca's question, movement. Now, here is how I look at it, Rebecca. Movement can be useful, but the more your movement, your body language is intentional, the better. And what I mean by intentional, it means that ideally your movement should be connected to something you're saying, to your message. Otherwise, yes, it can be distracting. So you don't want to just walk, and I'm talking about here in-person presentations. You don't want to just move on stage, walk right and left just because we know that body language and movement is important. No, it has to be connected to what you're saying. So, for example, Rebecca, you're talking about one of the key points you want to get across, and when you do that, you can get closer to the audience. Maybe you move a little bit towards the right. And then you finish that thought, the idea, you start talking about your second point. And then when you do that, you can move a little bit towards the left, for example. Or then if you think about, so we can also go beyond just movement. It could be hand gestures as well. So the more we move our hands, the more dynamic we are as presenters. But if you think about hand gestures, which is very much connected to your question, Rebecca, it's an interesting one because when we have a conversation with a friend, we never think about what we are doing with our hands. But then as soon as the dynamic is a little bit different, so we're giving a formal presentation, for example, often these two things start taking on a life of their own. We don't know what to do with them. Now, here is what you can do with your hands. You have three options.
Yeah.
Number one, nothing. It is an option. You don't have to move your hands all the time, and it's fine. The second option you have is that you move your hands without intention, so without thinking about what happens, and it is another option. And by the way, I can promise you, if you are prepared, if you've practiced, if you know what you're talking about, that will naturally happen. That's why when you have a conversation with a friend, whether you like it or not, whether you are aware of it or not, you do move your hands because you know that person, it's a friend, and you know what you're talking about. But the third option you have is that you move your hands with intention, with purpose. So connecting your movements to the message you're getting across. So, for example, Rebecca, I could tell you that there are three things you can do with your hands. So these, I don't know whether the camera is picking up, but this is an intentional hand gesture. Or we could talk about the differences between online presentations and face-to-face presentations.
Lovely.
So you do something like this. Again, it's connected to something you're saying. Exactly.
Brilliant. Very nice.
Now, the secret, and then I'll leave it here. The secret is for us to find the right balance among these three options, which means that within the same presentation, sometimes you do nothing. You don't have to move all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and I would say do, especially if we think about hand gestures, do move your hands without thinking about what happens. Again, if you are prepared, that will happen. But then what you can do, if you have a presentation coming up, you could, for example, plan 3 to 5, no more, 3 to 5 intentional hand gestures,
just like
connecting them to what you're saying. And that will help you find the right balance.
Very nice. I love the way you've just, the intentional hand gesture. Beautifully said there. Absolutely fantastic. Spot on. I love that. Yeah, Julie says, naturally use my hands now. Let's just come back to, Mrs. Moderator, you're still there. I'm sorry, I forgot to move scenes.
I'm still here.
Yeah, still here. That's fine.
Here we go. I've got a great question from Simon Brown.
Brilliant. Hi, Simon.
What tips do you have for making effective podcasts where there is a panel discussion or two people talking?
Oh, interesting.
Okay, so I'm not an expert at podcasting. This might be also, Andrew, I would be interested in hearing your thoughts because you've got experience as well. Yeah. I'm the host of our own podcast, the Ideas on Stage podcast. So I do have experience there. I don't see myself as an expert. For me, and I don't know if he answers your question, Simon, but the most important thing for me is preparation. So when you give a presentation, you want to know your audience as much as possible. That's Andrew, we were talking about it before going live. It's their presentation, not yours. Now, in this case, this is the audience's show. It's not my show today, Andrew. It's not even your show today. It's the audience's shows. So, Simon, if there's a panel and there are a couple of people there, then that means that as the host, you want to know as much as possible about them. So you need to do some preparation in advance to understand who they are, what they can talk about, but in detail, not just at a high level. So that's one thing. And then, I mean, my approach is just if you are prepared, if you know them, and you have a bit of an understanding of as Andrew calls it, the direction of travel, what you want to talk about, then you just have a chat, you just have a conversation. Plus, then, when it comes to podcast, we need to think about the setup. Super important, whether you have one people there or a couple of people in a panel, but the technological aspect makes a big difference. Andrew, any thoughts from your side?
Yeah, I just think that's lovely. And I think, the other thing is, look, forget that you're on a podcast, just imagine that you're visually present, because, even though you might not see people's hand gestures or what they're doing with their body, at that point, actually in that presentation, because you're using gestures, because you're using your voice appropriately, then one follows the other, and it becomes a very natural presentation, because tone of voice is really important. But tone of voice can be generated through movement as well. So, and because we talk naturally with our hands, then our voice follows our movements as well. So I think all of these things are important. I mean, when we do our podcast for this show, we don't do any editing whatsoever to this. This live show is as it is. So the replay goes out as the replay. There's no editing done. There's no post processing done whatsoever. We just go out live with what went, and what goes. What goes. So if something goes wrong, that goes part of the show as well. And that's part of the whole thing about for us as being authentic. And I think be authentic, be yourself, know your stuff, be prepared, absolutely. But just be natural and be yourself. And if you make a mistake, it doesn't matter. It's all part of it. We had ages ago. My mum rang up in the middle of the show. I forgot to switch the main phone off. And it's like, what do we do when my mum rings in the show? And I said, I bet you it's my mum. And guess who? It was my mum. And the funny thing is, we just couldn't switch the phone off. It kept going to answer phone and all sorts of things. But we decided, well, what do we do with that? And we decided just to leave it in the show, because actually it was, it was real. And people like Cecile and Jonas, who are online at the moment, they all agreed with me. Look, as the audience, when I asked them the questions, just leave it in the show. It was fine. It doesn't matter if you make a mistake. And people are worried about making a mistake or forgetting their words. And we'll come to that in a moment. But and I think that's the key thing. So it doesn't matter whether it's, whether we're live on camera, although the camera does present, I think, Andre, some additional challenges to voice, just pure voice. What do you think, Andre?
Yeah, and you said an interesting connection you made is the connection between voice and movement. So movement and voice. And it's true, the more you move your hands, for example, the more your voice will reflect it. And for example, if you think about voiceover artists, there are pictures you can see. Frank Sinatra, he was doing his recording, voiceover. Even like if you think about voice, it doesn't have to, singers as well, voiceover artists. Often what they do is they are in a room, in a closed room, nobody can see them. But even if they know that nobody can see them, often they stand up when doing their voiceover projects, and they move their hands. Why? Because they know that even if nobody can see them, the more they move their hands, the more their voice will reflect, the quality of their voice will reflect it. And again, as we were talking about, Andrew, before going live, voice, for obvious reasons, is a very powerful tool. When it comes to podcasts and what we are doing now, let's say online communication, voice is the most powerful tool we have. Sometimes it's the only tool we have, because now we are on video. It's not always the case.
No.
So it can be sometimes the only tool we have to get a message across.
I like that. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question, Simon. Let's just, there's so many questions coming up. Sarah, what's going on? Let's just...
I've got another question from Matthias.
Matthias.
Do you have any tips for including statistics in your presentation to back up your message without having too much?
Oh, lovely question. Love that.
Here is the most important thing I would consider when it comes to including statistics, data, let's say data in general. Now, let's start with the mistake I see. A very common mistake I see is that often when we include data, statistics in our presentations, we just take it for granted that the audience can understand the meaning of the data. So the way we communicate it is, here is my number, take it, use it, understand it, remember it. That's what we do often, whether we are aware of it or not. But that's not the case. We should not take it for granted that the audience understands what the data means just because we do. So a useful technique, if you want, to make sure that the audience gets it is to put your data into perspective. You want to put your data into perspective. Let me give you an example if we have time even more, but let me give you one example. Now, I was working with a client some time ago, and they wanted to communicate that thanks to their software, so they sell a software in the construction industry. And so thanks to their software, their clients had saved over a year 250,000 miles. Rather than commuting to do something, they could do certain activities remotely. And so they helped their clients save 250,000 miles in a year.
Wow.
Now, we put that into perspective, and that they said, they chose to say, okay, 250 miles is equivalent to driving from the very north of the UK to the very south of the UK 400 times.
Wow.
Now imagine,
Yeah.
so that's how much travel or commute we've saved our clients. 250,000 miles may mean something to somebody, it may mean something different to somebody else. But if you say, of course, if the audience is a UK audience, it has to be connected, relevant to the audience. But if it's a UK audience, everybody knows what it means to go from the north to the south 400 times. I could
Wow.
give you many other examples, but here is the technique. You take your number and you try and complete this sentence. Your number is the equivalent of what?
Oh.
Can you find something, a comparison? It could be size, it could be time, it could be things, but you need to find a comparison that makes it easier for the audience to understand what your statistic means.
I love that. And here's another comparison. That 250,000 miles, that's the distance that it took the Apollo 11 to get from Earth to the moon. So there's another
Andrew,
equivalent. Yeah.
Yeah, on that point, so that's great. And when we were working with a client, we thought about using something similar as a comparison, but in the end, we opted for the UK length
because it's a link to UK
comparison.
audience. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, because that was more relevant to the audience. If you've never been to the moon, then again, okay, yes, you do understand that it's a long journey, but it's not 100% relevant to you. But I'm not saying this because it was one of the options we thought about, but then we opted for the one which was most relevant to the audience, which is the number one principle in communication. It has everything we do has to be relevant, related to the audience.
So make it equivalent, make it relevant, and then you get your point absolutely across. I love that. That's brilliant. We've got some data coming up, but just before we do that, let's just bring back, there's a few questions more that might be useful just to pick up, because it's your show, folks. It's not ours, as we've just said. Sarah.
I just want to bring up Julie Hudson's. Any tips on overcoming feeling nervous when delivering a presentation before and during?
Brilliant.
Yeah. All right. So was that from Julie?
Yes.
Julie,
it's on the screen, yeah.
So Julie, yes, Julie, I see it here. Yeah, perfect. So Julie, if you feel nervous before or during a presentation, first of all, you are not alone. Everybody does.
We were nervous before we went live, for example.
So I'm a presentation coach. I give presentations all the time. And with my colleagues, we help our clients do the same. But for example, I have no problems in saying that I always feel nervous before a presentation. I think Mark Twain once said, and probably it's one of those quotes where he never said that, but I think it makes a point. So apparently he said that there are only two types of speakers: those who get nervous and those who are liars. So if somebody tells you, "Oh yes, you can give a presentation and you can do it while not feeling anything," then no, it's never going to happen. Yeah. But of course, there are things we can do to control our nerves, our anxiety in a more positive way. So I'll give you a few practical ideas.
Please. Yeah.
But then I'll tell you already that none of these will help you unless you do something else, and I'll tell you what that something else is. So one is for example, have a glass of water with you. So
Yeah.
nerves often cause a bit of a dry mouth. So make sure that you have a glass of water with you. Make sure that you drink not too much, but you do drink water before you have a presentation. During the presentation, make sure that you have a glass of water. Movement. So was it with Rebecca? Yes, we were talking about movement. Now, movement. So what happens is with anxiety, public speaking, what happens is that we have a lot of excess energy in excess that flows through our body. So we want to get some of that energy out. And the best way to do that is to move. So before a presentation, rather than waiting for your turn, or it depends on what the context is, but rather than waiting in front of a laptop or at a conference seated, have a walk outside, even better. So that's another thing you can do. Another practical tip, audience interaction. So can you find a way to include a moment of interaction right from the start? So at the beginning of your presentation, can you, for example, ask a question that makes the audience think about something? It could be a quick activity that puts the focus away from you as the presenter and back to the audience. So you see, there are many things you can do. However, none of these things will actually help unless you practice. I think Andrew was part of one of the poll that you created on LinkedIn, and one of the answers was practice, practice, practice. What makes you a confident presenter? And it's impossible to exactly. So we've got the quote there, we've got the poll there. Rehearsing, practicing makes a huge difference. And when I say that we need to rehearse, it's not about just thinking about what we say. Rehearsing means repeating your presentations out loud, not in your head, out loud, from the very beginning to the very end, without stopping, as if there is a real audience in front of you. That's what great presenters do. And the best way to overcome or control, if you want, public speaking anxiety is to know what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
And the best way to know what you're talking about is to be prepared.
There you go. I like that. So know what you're talking about, know your content. And the best way to know your content is to practice, practice, practice. Be prepared. I love that. I think that's great. I think Tom Hanks once said there are three things to when he goes on stage to act is, and I thought they were great hints. First of all was get there early, because you can soak up the ambience of what you're about to do. So you're with the people that you're going to be with. Get there early. Don't just rock up. Get there early. And know your content, he said. And then finally was introduce another idea. Introduce an idea that no one will have heard of. Contribute to the presentation that you're doing, or to the thing that you're doing. Bring something with you that is helpful. To move the presentation on, or do something different. And I love those three elements of Tom Hanks's hints and tips for us. Don't know if you've got anything you want to add
Andrew,
to
and on top of that, looking at the poll there,
yeah,
I would have struggled to answer, because both, for me, I would have said both know your content and practice, practice, practice. Now, of course, storytelling, super powerful, super important in communication. We can also talk about that. But also Lee Warren, who's a great speaker here in the UK, he says in his book, the Busy Person's Guide to Great Presenting, great book, he says that confidence comes from knowing your audience, knowing your message, so your content here, and being prepared. So practice, practice, practice.
There you go. So know the audience, be prepared. What was the other one? Know your audience, know your content, be prepared.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Okay.
So I would have picked both. Knowing your, and by the way, knowing your content is also why I wrote the book Confident Presenter.
Yeah, we'll come on to that in a moment.
Somebody was talking about the importance of delivery skills. Now, delivery skills, of course, can be very important. For example, when we work with our clients, we do work on their ability to deliver the message effectively. But even before that, in my experience, Andrew, 80% of your confidence comes from your ability to develop a compelling message.
Yeah.
If you have a compelling message, a captivating message, which is simple for the audience to understand, clear for them to follow, relevant to them, and also engaging, then 80% of your confidence comes from that. 20% is your delivery, your visuals, if you need them. But the most important thing is your content, in my opinion.
Love that. Yeah. And make it relevant. And, for me, the other tips are, involve the audience, and I used to always enjoy that. Make eye contact. If you're really nervous, if you're super nervous, what I found to be really useful, I don't know whether you've ever done this, Andre, but is to model somebody else. I remember doing the haka in front of 800 people in Madrid, and it was frightening the living daylights out of it because the practice session went really badly. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be awful. This could be a train crash. And then I thought, hang on a minute, I'm thinking about the wrong thing here. So I modeled the person that was co-presenting with me, and he was a really calm individual. So I just modeled him. And it really helped me to deliver the haka, and it went brilliant. And we lifted the roof off the place. So just modeling other people sometimes, if you're not in a good state because something's gone wrong, then I just found modeling that other person really useful. What else tips have you got? We'll come on to questions in a moment, but I've got a question for you. What happens if you forget your words, Andre? What do you do?
You said, Andrew, we had a question about podcasts, and you said, look, if you make a mistake, that's okay.
Yeah.
You just made a mistake and
Just
you
make a
go on.
mistake. Yeah, exactly.
Now, so first of all, if you've rehearsed your presentation, and if you've done it enough times, and enough times means that if I think about my experience with clients, it's very, very hard to internalize your content, because that's where you want to get to. You don't have to necessarily memorize your content. Memorization can be tricky. It can work for some people, but you don't have to. But you have to internalize your content. You need to own your content. You need to know exactly what to say and when, pretty much. Now, if you've done the preparation work in advance to get to that level of internalization, then it's less likely that you will forget some words. And even if you do, anyway, you can use different words, but you got to a point where you have internalized your content, you own your content, and so it's going to be much easier for you to then go with the flow and continue with the next thing that you can remember. And if we think about it, if we forget something, say for example that there was a section of the presentation that we wanted to include, we wanted to talk about that particular thing, then you forget it, you jump to the next section, you don't talk about it. Who knows?
Exactly.
You know it because you are the presenter.
Yeah, who knows?
Of course, you think about, oh shit, I wanted to talk about that. I get it.
Technical term.
I get it. Yeah. But the audience doesn't know it. So just make sure that you've internalized your message and then jump to the next thing you remember.
Or you can include it later. And, I found that to be really useful. I've also used I don't know whether you've ever done this, but I once forgot my words right in the middle of an audience. And maybe Ildi was in the crowd at that point there. So she can remember me public speaking quite a bit. And I just said to the audience, I've just forgotten what I'm about to say. What was the last thing I said? And there's always somebody in the audience that will help you out. What was the last thing I said? I don't know. And then someone in the audience puts their hands up and said, "You said this." Right. And that just gave me enough chance to go, that's the link, dink, and then I'm off. So, somebody told me once, and I use this quite often if I forget my words, I'll go, right, I've just forgotten my words, but somebody has said to me in the past that if I take 2 steps backwards, I will always remember what I need to say. So I then take 2 physical steps backward and I go, oh, there it is. And bang, off you go. So,
Andrew, it's also, sorry to cut you off, it's also connected to Ildi's comment here. I see sometimes she says, I like to admit that I'm not perfect. I say that I'm not the guru. I don't have all the answers. Now, for example, we talked about it for the Ideas on Stage podcast. I had the huge privilege of interviewing Seth Godin recently. And we talked about the importance of I don't know. He told me, it's obvious, but I agree with him, it makes sense. He told me that just simply saying sometimes I don't know makes you a more confident communicator, a more confident presenter, no less. So
Yeah.
often, so if we think about public speaking, we give a presentation. During the presentation, or maybe in the Q&A at the end, we get, even today, like I'm getting, like, for example, I got the question, again, I don't want to take me as an example, but I got the question from, I don't remember, but was it Simon? Yeah, about podcast.
Yes,
And
Simon
Ildi,
Brown. Yeah.
that maybe that's connected to what you would have done. I said, look, I'm not an expert in
You
podcasts.
did.
I can
Yes.
talk about public speaking. I can talk about presentations. I'm not an expert when it comes to. I do have my podcast, but I don't know. I can just share my experience with you. And sometimes even saying, look, I don't know, makes you more confident, because then when you do have something to say, then you showed that, Andrew, again, you were talking about authenticity. So if I tell you, look, I don't have an answer to that question, but by the way, what the best thing to approach that is, I don't have an answer to that question, but what I'll do is, let me just find it out for you, let me do some research, and then I'll get back to you.
Yeah,
So
lovely.
if,
I
if
like
the
that.
context allows you to do that, so you do that. But then within the same session, when you do have an answer, it makes the answer even more useful for the audience, because they know that you're not making it up. You do have something to say.
Yeah, and often just asking the audience, well, what do you think to that? And then you can build on that, and then somebody comes up with something that triggers you, and you're going to go, yeah, now there's a good point. And so you've then engaged other people, and that, I find that to be really helpful. Let's just give you a quick break for a moment, and I'm just conscious of the time as well. So just to let you know that we've got about quarter of an hour left. So just to let you know, Sarah.
Yeah, just want to bring up Matthias asked the question. He's got a friend who is incredibly smart, has got a lot of knowledge, but he's so shy and afraid to speak out in public. What advice do you have for somebody to overcome their fears of speaking out?
Follow a
Oh, yeah.
process.
There we go.
Follow a process. There's a structured way of thinking about presenting. Now, somebody is shy, and that's again another key reason why I wrote the book. A lot of people think that confidence in presenting comes from wishful thinking or innate self belief, whereas it has nothing to do with that.
No.
Confidence comes from a few things, but one thing in particular which is connected to the question is the importance of following a certain process. There's a structured way of thinking about presenting, from the foundation of the communication process, which is all about the audience. Again, ELD was talking about making it more relatable. Everything has to be relatable, relevant to the audience. So that's the first thing, understanding the audience, their needs, and the context. Then you want to brainstorm a little bit to identify your key messages. You also want to be able to develop a clear and engaging storyline from the very beginning. At the beginning, you need to be able to grab the audience's attention to the very end with a very clear punchline. Then, as we said before, illustration. We don't have to, but if we do, we need to use a visual support, and we need to do it effectively. No death by PowerPoint. And then at the end, we have the connection piece. We also want to be able to make a good connection with the audience. So these are the delivery skills. And that's what I mean by following a certain process, from the foundation to your ability to make a good connection with the audience. And not following a structured process is often what creates discomfort when we are in front of an audience.
Yeah. So again, it's being prepared, isn't it? And having a process, as you say. And I like the way you build on that. Have some illustration, some relevance. Some visual support. So Russell's stuff is going to be really important for people here who's online, who prepares presentations for people, and connection to the audience. So you're connecting. I love that. Let's just find out what else is going. Any other questions that we want to pick up, Sarah?
I think we've done most of the other questions, but just thinking about Matthias's friend, I think sometimes if you can't do it on your own, take somebody with you.
Oh,
Do it
lovely.
with somebody. So if you're
Yeah.
too frightened to do it on your own, go with backup.
Go with
Yeah.
backup.
And then the more you do it, the more
Yeah.
you might find, actually, I'm okay at this. I mean, me doing the moderating role is something I would
Mm,
never have dreamt of doing, but I'm not doing it on my own. I'm doing it with everybody else on the show. So I think, because I'm quite a shy person as well, I can relate to that. And
mm.
yeah, if you've got somebody alongside you that you're doing it together, so all the emphasis isn't on you, I think that could be a great way to start.
I like that. And I like Andy Gray's comment here. Morning, Andy, by the way. He says, I involve the audience. I encourage heckling. What say you?
Especially if I have to do a sermon. Sarah, let me add something else here, which some people may not like it, but that's how I look at it. If you don't find it comfortable, first of all, comfort should not be the objective, because as we said before, there will always be some nerves and anxiety.
Fine, right?
Yeah. But if it doesn't come naturally to you, if you're shy, then just do it anyway. I know that some people want a magic formula. No, just do it. For the podcast, I interviewed Alexandra Galvez. She's known on LinkedIn for the hashtag authentic Alex. She talks about authenticity. She's very transparent. And she shared with me an anecdote. She told me that at the beginning of her career, she didn't like, she hated public speaking. And then at some point, she was offered 2 jobs. One job did not include public speaking, and the other role included a lot of public speaking. And even if she hated public speaking, she chose the job that included public speaking because of this principle. You hate something, you're shy, it doesn't come natural to you, you just do it anyway. Confidence, and another principle here, confidence also comes from familiarity. The more you do certain things, the more confident you are at doing those things, including public speaking. A super quick example again. Recently, I watched a video of Kobe Bryant, NBA, one of the best NBA players of all time. And he was answering some questions. One of the questions was, Kobe, how is it possible that every time I see you playing, you look so confident? And he said, the only reason why you see me confident all the time is because when you see me doing certain things, I've done those things 1,000 times before.
Okay, got it.
So then you are shy, you don't have a lot of experience giving a presentation, speaking in public. Just do it the first time. It won't be perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect presentation. Make it personal. It doesn't have to be perfect. Then do it a second time. Do it 3 times. Do it 1,000 times. I can promise you, if you get to 1,000 presentations, then you will be much more comfortable and confident than the very first time.
Love that. And, none of us are the finished article. I remember when I first started talking for the Coaching Academy, and I presented for them many years ago, and did it for over 10 years with them. I remember the person that started me off said, look, Andrew, for the time being, you don't have to be the finished article. It's fine. And I found real grace in that, actually, that if I did mess up, it didn't matter. I got some feedback, I built it in, and I just learned. And you're right, practice. And the only way to practice is to keep doing it, and you have to fear the fear and do it anyway for a short while before that kind of experience tends to build up, right? And you just get better at it and you become a master at it.
Yeah, 100%. Nothing to add. I agree 100%.
Brilliant. Okay, just quickly, I mean, we're marching to an end now, but hints and tips. So give us some. What would be your top tips, key principles for powerful presentations, Andrea? Sorry.
In the book, I do talk about the 5 key principles for powerful presentations, and that's what we do when we work with our clients. Now, remember the word score. You want to score when you give a presentation, like in football. Now, SCORE stands for 5 principles: simple, clear, original, related to the audience, as we talked about, and enjoyable. So it's a very high level without going into detail, but simple, because I think somebody, I don't remember now all the names, but somebody said simple is best. I agree with that. So simple, because the more you say, the less they remember. So you need to keep it short, simple, and to the point. Clear, because your key messages should be obvious to everybody, including you, the presenter. Original, because you want your presentations to stand out, to be a bit different, so that they'll pay more attention and remember it for longer. Related, remember, Andrew, it's their presentation, not yours. So you need to make
Absolutely.
sure that what you say is useful and relevant to them, to the audience. And then enjoyable. Of course, if your audience enjoys your talks, again, they'll pay more attention, they'll remember more, and maybe, just maybe, they'll do what you want them to do. They'll take action. And if that's your objective sometimes, that's why this is so important.
Brilliant. So SCORE, folks, keep it simple, keep it clear, keep it original, related, and enjoyable, and enjoyable, engaging. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I like that simple mnemonic there. So SCORE, remember that, folks. Now coming to your CTA, your call to action here. So tell us about your Confident Presenter book. Now this is coming out on the 18th, isn't it? Next Tuesday, folks, I think. Is that right?
Yeah. And it's a book for business owners, business leaders who want to become more confident presenters, for leaders who want to develop a team of confident presenters.
Brilliant.
And I included there many of the things we talked about today, plus much more. And yes, I do have a special offer. So on Tuesday next week,
Tuesday,
the book launches, and on that day, for 48 hours, so Tuesday and Wednesday next week, you can get the Kindle version, the digital version of it. So there is also a paperback version, but the offer is on the Kindle, and you can get the Kindle even if you don't have a Kindle. So it's the digital version for just 99p.
Wow.
Or less than $1, less than, depending on where you are in the world. Plus, you can also get access to 2 additional training courses with content which is not included in the book, so you can learn even more. These training courses are worth £250, and you can get them for free. So to recap, the digital version of the book plus 2 training courses worth £250, everything for just 99p. If you're interested, there's a link here in the graphic, and what you can do is you can register your interest, and then if you do that on Tuesday morning, I'll send you an email with a link where you can take advantage of that offer.
Brilliant. That is a really brilliant offer. And Andy Gray says, yay, Kindle. There you go. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So 99p for that. Register your interest with the book as well on the 18th of July. That's next Tuesday, folks. And you get also 2 free training courses worth £250 each from Andre. What's not to like about that, folks? There you go. Hopefully the link will be in the feed in a few moments. So yeah, an excellent offer, says Simon Brown. So yeah, just before we close off, to anything else, Sarah, you want to pick up?
No, I think that's about it. I'm just trying to see if I can copy the link into the feed.
Yeah, lovely. Okay.
I think Tilly might have to be doing that one for me.
Okay, Tilly, if you can do that for us. For some reason, we can't do it. So there we go. Okay, so, and Andrea's website is here. This is, what's your website address again, Andre?
Ideas on Stage. That's the name of a company. Ideasonstage.com.
.com. Yeah. Now, for some reason, I'm coming twice on this camera. I don't know why, but never mind. Dear. So, yeah, quick shout out for what I do. I do high performance teamwork as PDX Consulting, as my website here. This is my website address here. It doesn't seem to flow at the moment for some reason. Let's see if I can work this. There it is there. And this is one of the courses that I do called The Edge. It's about high performance teamwork. So if you're interested in that for your business, then please contact me about my Edge to unlock your team's high performance potential right now, folks. So that's a little bit about me. And then, yeah, just a little bit, just a quick reminder that Leaders Live, look, it's a free show, folks. So for all leaders and directors and managers and entrepreneurs who are interested in business growth through infotainment and enjoy taking part in these extraordinary conversations just like we've had today with Andre. And thank you so much, Andre, for just such a brilliant interactive talk. We've had so much interaction today. Absolutely loved it. And together, you know, this community, we aim to make the world better, folks, and we use that word very purposefully. So yeah, and thank you again, Andre. Absolutely brilliant. We're going to close out very shortly, but just a little bit about our sponsors here. Here's the showreel for Ghost, our sponsors. Brilliant. So, yeah, super. So, Ghost are a brand and design agency with an exceptional team of highly skilled and vibrant people that help develop and shape your brands to inspire businesses just like mine, just like yours. So, there we go. And all the links are in the feed. I can see them all coming through, including Andre's ideas on stage and the link to the offer that Andre was talking about. So, Sarah, quick catch up on Leaders Live.
Just a little reminder, there's been one or two comments about, people haven't been able to manage to do the live shows, etc. Just a reminder that if you can't catch us on live, you can catch us on podcast.
Right.
If you subscribe, you'll even get an email link to your inbox every morning on a Tuesday with a quick link to the show. So make it terribly easy for people. What's not to love? And just a reminder, if you've enjoyed it, tell lots of people about it. So the more people we can get on board.
There we go. Tell all your friends, folks. So the more people that come, the better it's going to be. And thank you very much. Good session. Thank you, Andre and Andrew, Sarah and Tilly, etc. from Simon Brown. So thank you. And the goose for next week, folks. The goose for next week. We have. Oh no, it's not that one, and I don't know why I haven't got the right goose in place. So apologies for that. Let me just find a different banner. We've got John Attridge. I thought I'd replace that. So there we go. Something's gone wrong with that. We've got John Attridge. He's coming to us again. He was talking about his book. Great ideas and bloody great ideas and business blunders. So that's coming up again next week. We're going to be talking about business scale-ups and how to scale up a business. So a little bit more from John on that. So we can't wait for that. That's going to be great. Be there or be square. And we think you're going to love it. So that's the slot for next week. John Attridge, CEO of BBX and best-selling author and keynote speaker, spills his guts on how to start and grow and scale and exit a business, folks. So that's where we're going. How to grow your sales to scale up your business is the theme. As I said, we think you're going to love it. Be there or be square. And we're going to close out to our outro right now. And thank you for all of your brilliant comments today. You were outstanding as an audience. Thank you very much indeed. We're going to finish with our outro and wave goodbye to you now. Cheers for now. Thank you very much. Cheers, everybody. Thanks again for such a brilliant show. And to you, Andre, for just brilliant tips and hints on public presenting. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Cheers, everybody. See you again next week on our next groovy, awesome show. Thank you very much, folks. Bye for now.